Welcome to the Look Club, where we bring virtual reality into reality.
Today we're discussing the 360 VR documentary, Traveling While Black.
Some of my best friends are travelers.
Well, your friends are lucky because not everybody can just travel whenever, wherever.
For that they need Shakira.
Even within the US, before Trump and coronavirus, there were travel restrictions for people of color.
That's why they wrote the Green Book.
A travel guide for Kermit the Frog.
It's a guidebook for African American road trippers.
I know, I'm kidding.
Yeah, but like more than usual. Like, you're avoiding taking this episode seriously?
Fine, I am a little anxious about reviewing this piece.
Because it's about race?
People are sensitive. And sensitive people write mean internet comments.
But if we don't review it, we're minimizing a narrative that needs to be shared.
The Green Book, the movie, was totally controversial, but it got people talking.
And when people are talking, progress happens.
Hashtag me too.
Weinstein was a rapist, not a racist.
Right, but he's an example of progress from a discussion.
And wouldn't it be awesome if all racists went to jail for 23 years?
Well, prison fantasies aside. Oh, nope, wait, struggling to put it aside? Okay, if we think it's scary to review Traveling While Black, imagine how scary it was to make it.
I really respect Felix and Paul's studios for taking on such a sensitive and important topic. As directors, they're known for being really thoughtful about their choices. And this may be the first piece they put their studio's name on that they didn't direct themselves.
Apparently, the story of Traveling While Black originated as a play, and then they developed it into a multimedia project, and then someone suggested VR.
Oh, that was in that Guardian article. Originally, they were going to make the VR experience as an animation and then scripted with actors.
Yeah.
And then they landed on a documentary. And largely because documentary had been the format that's been most experimented on in VR.
You made some VR docs, right, Erica?
In war-torn countries, talk about brave.
If Erica was brave enough to do that, and Felix and Paul brave enough to make this piece. All right then, let's do this.
We need to talk about this.
So, Traveling While Black is what the VR pros call a disembodied, first-person narrative, non-entity robot experience.
Disembodied? Please tell me nobody gets their head cut off.
No, it just means that there's voiceover, and it's narrating a story, just not your story.
The voiceover is not the voice in your head.
And the non-entity part means that no one in the show knows you're there.
And the robot part means the filmmakers are in control of your movement.
Gotcha.
Are we ready to travel while black?
All right. Let's start our headsets. Open your apps. And enter VR.
Enter VR!
Every trip through America for a black person during those times was potentially fatal. The assumption is at some time it stopped. And that's not the case. It never stopped.
I am feared, really frightened for black men traveling while black.
So, what did we think?
So when I was at USC Film School, they told us, show, don't tell. And what's exciting about VR is you can do better than show. You can not just evoke a feeling, but actually bring the viewer into a situation where they can experience that feeling for themselves.
Like, in VR, you could actually experience what it's like to be segregated on the train and feel what it's like to be moved from the mixed car to the black car.
Yeah, and you could feel just how welcoming Ben's Chili Bowl was. Because as a viewer in VR, you enter an experience without your personal attributes. So even as a white person, you could feel like you are part of the black community.
It would have been cool to feel the welcoming community of Ben's Chili Bowl as a non-black person.
Yeah.
But in this piece, it's not welcoming. Everybody that you're sitting with is completely ignoring you.
Yeah, the filmmakers chose to put the viewer in a booth at person height, sitting with people, but they don't treat the viewer like a person.
That's part of why it's a non-entity effectual point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't know who I was and why I was there.
I wondered at first if that was intentional because being ignored evokes strong feelings.
of isolation.
But the whole reason that Ben's Chili Bowl is the focus of the doc is because it's known for being so welcoming.
So choosing to evoke isolation in Ben's Chili Bowl feels like an ineffective filmmaking choice.
Also, I found the narrative a bit confusing. In the beginning, after the introductory voiceover, we're standing outside at night, and once the voiceover narration ends, we start hearing Sandra Butler Truesdale, and so I look around to find out where the voice is coming from, but she's not anywhere.
Oh yeah, then they cut inside Ben's Chili Bowl. It's closed, and Ms. Butler Truesdale is sitting at the counter telling her story to no one when you're right there. So it's like if I were talking to you and looking over here.
And also, most of the time when somebody's talking, it feels like a one-sided or staged conversation.
I wondered if that was because no one was listening to their plight.
But they didn't act it in that way.
And I will say, when Samaria Rice is telling the story of how her 12-year-old son, Tamir, was shot by the police, it's very clear that everybody is listening then.
It's a powerful scene only because her story is powerful. And that feels really staged.
Yeah. The world that this VR experience brings to life feels really fake, which is an interesting choice for a documentary.
Also, it's surprisingly Brechtian. In his plays, Brecht would break the reality of the world purposefully to keep the audience from connecting with the characters emotionally.
It's a really counterintuitive choice for this subject matter in VR.
Yeah. The coolest thing is the mirror thing.
Oh yeah, when you're sitting in the booth and the mirror next to you shows the bus from the past traveling by.
Oh yeah, I'd heard about that. I looked for it and couldn't find it.
It was so easy to miss, and there are VR directing techniques to make sure to guide you, like the actors glancing towards the mirror to cue you to look in that direction, or spatial audio with the honk of the bus to let you know that there's something over there.
And that reminds me, when we're standing in the bus, we're standing in the aisle and we're moving really slow, and I don't know why.
Yeah, Eve, what you're seeing in the mirror is a reflection of a young black man sitting on the bus with the countryside passing him by. And then you cut to being inside the bus.
Yeah, I wondered if we were supposed to be that young black man in the reflection in the mirror.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but then when we're on the bus, we're not even sitting, we're standing, and the bus is moving very slowly, and the young man isn't even there, so maybe it's not even the same bus?
There were also a few other times where we moved and I didn't know why, like from the men's room to the front at the end.
That's robot experiential point of view, by the way.
Whatever you call it, it had no payoff.
It did add to the alienation, but I really don't think they wanted us to feel that way in Ben's Chili Bowl.
That filmmaking choice of moving the camera does not support the reason why they're telling the story of Ben's Chili Bowl.
It's funny, there's one time that I wished we'd moved and we didn't. When we're standing outside at the beginning, they could have had us moving toward Ben's Chili Bowl, giving us a hint that we were about to go inside. They could have also used spatial audio and volume adjustments to make clear that Ms. Butler Truesdale's voice was coming from inside and that we were moving towards it.
Oh yeah, that would have made sense.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I wanted to be a fan. The stories these characters are telling are so important.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all felt that way. Like, we just want to make this the best it could be.
And the stories that people shared in the experience were gripping, not because of how they were shared with us, but despite how they were shared with us.
Yeah, I feel like my confusion about who I was, where I was, when I was, and why really took me out of the experience. I was half listening, half trying to decode this audio-visual puzzle.
One of our colleagues mentioned that maybe Traveling While Black was supposed to be viewed more as like a 360 but flat screen format. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
But they made it into an app and put it in a VR headset and marketed it as virtual reality.
So you think it's fair to review it as a VR piece?
Well, maybe it's a sign that the story as they have it, dare I say it, is better off as a
2D cinematic documentary?
Yeah.
A flatty. Yeah, I mean, if we don't talk about what is and isn't working in this industry, it's never going to improve.
Kind of like why it was so important for Felix and Paul to make Traveling While Black and for us to review it, right? If we don't talk about these things, nothing's ever going to change, nothing's ever going to get better.
That's a big part of why we're reviewing these pieces in the first place, to share what makes for effective VR filmmaking. So on that note, drum roll please. A third thumb up.
So to summarize, Traveling While Black is a disembodied first-person narrative non-entity robot experience.
It was not effective because you were uncertain why you were there.
You're not engaged and you feel ignored and not with purpose.
The people and scenarios feel really fake, which totally takes you out of it and prevents you from being able to empathize.
If you'd like to learn from the filmmakers' work on Traveling While Black and hear the important stories the characters share, you can find out how and where below or by looking at our website, thelook.club.
Until then, run a mile
In someone else's
Shoes.